Alright, so this is the poetry that I produced to accompany the prose that you heard. It was part of a much larger project. Many, many people were involved, many poets, many writers, many artists. And we collected all of their material. We edited it, we made MP3s, and we put it up on the internet. All of this is now also on discs and in books that are all over the country and the world. This was our production. You can go to revolocien.com, zounds11.php, and you can hear all of this material. And I'm going to just let this run now as the last video in my short piece here that I've been wanting to make for some time about my experience in New York at that time. And yeah. He said a rich braggart once took a Sufi on a tour of his enormous house. At the end he asked, "What impressed you most of all?" The Sufi answered, "The fact that the earth is strong enough to support the weight of such a massive building." That was the first quote that I pulled for the project when we were all sitting down together for the first time to talk, and I was talking about my reaction, and everybody was talking about theirs. I showed them this, the book that I made, and the very first thing I wrote upon hearing that this had happened. It is said, a rich braggart once took a Sufi on a tour of his enormous house. At the end he asked, "What impressed you most of all?" The fact that the earth is strong enough to support the weight of such a massive building, by Idris Shah. And this is the book of poems and things I wrote when I was there that became my recordings that you hear here. I'm going to just run that back. It is said a rich braggart once took a Sufi on a tour of his enormous house. At the end he asked, "What impressed you most of all?" The Sufi answered, "The fact that the earth is strong enough to support the weight of such a massive building." Among my friends, the following possibilities are not out-counted. That Osama bin Laden had nothing to do with this, that it could have been anyone, including U.S. citizens, that there was failure of communication between Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the Federal Aviation Agency, and the World Financial Centers in Manhattan, and that we, my friends, may never know what happened because there is ample opportunity for U.S. government power to reconstitute evidence to tell whatever story advances their own agenda. We are expected to go on with it, our lives, the engine of the economy, urban dwelling, keeping our friends' businesses afloat, shelving our grief. We are drowning in information and disinformation, totally unconfident in the verity or trustworthiness of what we read, hear, or see. Older men and women and children in our communities are already parroting rumors we know to be false, yet we cannot refute them without arguing with our elders, and that is uncouth in a time of grief. We are a city dazed. Le grand grotesque, macabre burlesque, the sick jingo. American flags cut into Klansmen's robes would at least remind white America what it could become, backward looking. Nostalgia has become whitewashing. Profiling people as evil, less, ugly, or handicapped in this place of a million eyes, eyes upon eyes that watch and watch and watch and stare and record every action, every move, with running commentary of those who would dare to say what is not American. What is American? The illness continues among nations as among religions. pomp and grieving in public, parading crocodile tears beside real horror and pain. The very real, the surreal, and the hyper-real are all made one in boiling steel, and in the vicious, vengeful eyes of the racist, ignorant, soulless fool who has never known war. Real hell is the stories of the survivors on the losing side. Ask the Iraqis, the Afghanis, the Kosovar. During this crisis, as many turned to drugs, narcotics, alcohol, and nicotine, as turned to their God, or more. But for the Muslims and the devout ascetics who stopped drinking. Grief ranged from tiny creeks of interminable length, turning in the maddening darkness atypically silent in New York, to wailing and heaving of the form into the bed, into the sofa, into the walls. A white glow from the work lights bathes the thin cloud of dust over lower Manhattan, accentuating the sickening void, the absence that leads to a path of thinking of why, and having to replay the mental image of those dreadful television broadcasts. City election primary held, runoff due, schools reconvened, businesses running, many running scared and nervous. Students trying to create some normality attempt to put Manhattan into the semester format. Midterms soon due. There's a hole and a massive pile of rubble downtown. Normality and madness walk hand in hand down the middle of Broadway. Library full, publishers active, artists, performers, writers, editors, and entertainment, communications, and fashion sectors all scrambling. Some faring better than others, not because of content, but sheer volume. There is much grieving among labor. City services and its employees have been stalwart throughout, but heavy hearts are apparent in the faces of many. The economy worsens. The authority wants more powerful eyes, though it can already read the denominations of notes on the bedside table of any whore, ID the Johns. The zealots build numbers, hatch schemes. Fear is broken only once a day, a relief if it happens before sunset. A Hindu observed the 12th day. A scapegoat was quickly named, mindless retaliation in vengeance swiftly promised, a military operation labeled, file folders created, bulletins, communique, alliances are being secured, money dispersed, deal making, The particularly sensitive cannot help but have intermittent breakdowns, collapsing into tears, falling into a heap of mournful grief. The Muslims continue about their business in a hate-filled world, sure only of what others fear. Wise to eternal time, Val Asr. And this is a song. Knowing that we could make music was important. And I made it with a friend. First time I played music after the events. guitar, he's on the cello. And that was my 9/11 until 9/25 experience. From September 11th to September 25th.